It was the feeling that I had from being strong.
Personal training clients and the books, how do those all fit into your picture?
I felt something inside of me go, oh, this is it. This is the missing piece.
Fewer people are looking at you than you think, and at the same time, more people are looking at you than you think.
All of the things that I do now didn't necessarily exist when I was growing up.
I've got so many questions. I am joined today by Desi Bartlett. She is the founder of Desi Bodymind, an innovative subscription platform that offers a holistic approach to health and wellness through meditation, yoga, and fitness. At her heart, Desi's philosophy is the belief in the interconnectedness of mind and body. As a women's health expert with advanced certifications in yoga, personal training, prenatal and postnatal fitness, and group fitness, Desi has garnered a roster of private clients, including household names like Ashley Tisdale, Alicia Silverstone, Kate Hudson, and many more. With her expertise, she has been featured on major networks such as ABC, NBC, Fox, Univision, Hallmark, Lifetime. Desi's influence extends beyond her client base through multiple online platforms, including Daily Om, Beachbody, and iFit. She is the author of 2 books, Your Strong, Sexy Pregnancy, a comprehensive guide for pregnancy and beyond, and the co-author of Total Body Beautiful, Secrets to Looking and Feeling Your Best After Age 35. With over 25 years of experience in health and wellness, she holds a bachelor's degree in kinesiology and a master's degree in corporate fitness, and is currently pursuing a doctoral degree in exercise science. Originally from Chicago, I'm sure we'll get into that, Desi is also a proud mother of 2. Desi, welcome to the Eden Group podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. And when you list it all out like that, I'm like, wow, that's kind of a lot. But I also realized that it's over the span of almost 3 decades now.
All humans on the planet like stories, and for every good story, there is a call to adventure. I would love to hear about you growing up in Chicago and when you got bitten by the health and wellness bug.
So growing up in Chicago, I grew up with my mother. She was a single mom, and she was a hippie and a disciple of a gentleman named Goswami Kriyananda at the Temple of Kriya Yoga in Chicago. So I received my first mantra, and I was given the gift of meditation at 6 years old. And yeah, as I grew up, I kind of stepped away from yoga a little bit. I always stayed with my meditation practice, but like actual asana, actual yoga postures, it just wasn't so much part of my daily life. So fast forward to college. My first 2 years of college, I really wanted to get out of the cold. And so I went to Arizona State University, and originally I was a communications major, and I was also a dance minor. I hurt my knee in a dance class, and I was like, uh-oh. So I went to the school medical center, and I spoke with the doctor, and I told him what was happening with my knee. And he said, you're totally fine. You just need to strengthen your quads. And I said, what's a quad? And he said, you need to go to the gym. So, as fate would have it, that night, speaking to my sorority, was second place Miss Olympia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, this amazing woman, Jackie, she came in, she spoke to us, and I told her about what was happening with my knee. And I'm like, please, can you help me? And she said, don't worry, I've got you. She took me to the gym the next day. She showed me how to use the leg extension machine and all the things and helped to build a program for me. And in so doing, she helped me fall in love with fitness. And so my joke is that, once I walked into the gym, I never left. And I then changed my major to kinesiology. I wound up going back to Chicago because I felt like in Arizona, all I was really learning how to do was party. As fun as that was, I really wanted to focus more on my studies. So I transferred to University of Illinois at Chicago, UIC, and I went on to complete my master's degree in corporate fitness. Now, the day that I graduated, I moved to Mexico. And I made the decision that I wanted to know more about my culture as a Latina. My mother was, may she rest in peace, was Caucasian, Russian and Jewish, and I had this whole other part of me, and obviously I look Hispanic, and I'm like, I don't know, I didn't know how to speak Spanish. I didn't know anything about who I was in that part of myself. So I moved to Cabo San Lucas 2 days after I finished my graduate degree. And I was able to put together some investors. I opened a small gym. It was called Cabo Health and Fitness. Aprendí el español. I learned Spanish, and as fate would have it, there in Mexico, I had this amazing man come to me one day and he said, I'd really love to teach at your gym. And I'm like, okay, great. What do you teach? And he said, yoga. And I'm like, all right, what's your name? And his first name was Tonatiuh. And I asked him what that meant. It's the Aztec name for the sun god. And I'm like, all
Hmm.
right, bring it. Let's see what you got. So I took his class, and there was this body memory of yoga and how much it meant to me. And it was at that point that I realized that I really wanted to dedicate myself as a bridge for these two formats between fitness and yoga, between what we consider to be more Western, if you will, in terms of the gym, and
Hmm.
the Eastern traditions. And just like people blend medicine, I like to blend movement.
I've got so many questions. So first off, was the runner-up Miss Olympia an alum of Arizona State University?
Yes, yeah,
She
Jackie
was. Okay.
Paisley. She's since passed. May she rest in peace. She
Yeah.
was an alum of the university, and coincidentally, she had also been a dance minor. And
Oh.
the woman who ran the program was not a huge fan of hers because the woman who ran the program, Madame Klistawa, she was a very traditional Russian dancer. She felt
Mm.
like Jackie was getting too bulky, so they had their moment of like, maybe you're not going to be a prima ballerina because now you're putting on mass, and that was okay with Jackie because she went on to compete.
Yeah, yeah, and to do very well. It sounds like when you went from your undergrad to your master's degree, you went straight in. You didn't take any break in between.
I went straight in. I just let it ride. And honestly, between you and me and everyone listening, I would
Right.
have I would have stayed on for my PhD at that point. I was more than happy to stay in school, and I was just absorbing all of it. And I love education and knowledge and information. And I'm really just a big science nerd. But financially, I needed to make a decision, and it was time. It was time to go into the real world and work a little bit.
That's quite the like moving your chips into the middle of the table. Quite the all-in move there. What was it about Jackie training you that made you go from personal rehab to willing to invest quite a bit of energy and time and money in certification and education, and like what happened in that undergraduate year that made you want to do your master's, and obviously you've ended up where you are now, like that, because, and the reason I ask is like a lot of people do sports in college, a lot of people train in college, a lot of people lift, a lot of people get results, but something clicked for you that made you want to go all in, and I'm curious what that was.
It was the feeling. It was the feeling that I had from being strong, and I felt something inside of me go, "Oh, this is it. This is the missing piece." Through dance, I always had a feeling of freedom and freedom of expression and creativity, but I didn't necessarily have strength and stability. I didn't have
Mm.
that in my personal life growing up, and then I didn't have that in my physical body. There was a lot of hypermobility, and I feel like my
Mm-hmm.
body was kind of a reflection of what was happening in my personal life. So the ability to cultivate strength was seductive, and it called me, and I fell in love with it. And I knew that if I could experience this feeling, I could also share this feeling, and I could learn all the science behind it. So it was kind of like when I met my husband. I fell in love within a week, and we moved in 6 weeks later, and we've been married for 21 years. It's the same feeling with fitness. I fell in love the first time in the gym, and I've been there ever since.
Wow. Okay, so you graduate and you want to get in touch with your Mexican heritage. I assume your father was Mexican then, Mexican?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
yes. That's actually on me and my family's bucket list. My wife is Mexican as well. And growing up in Washington, it can be very difficult for our kids to be so far away from all of their family, so my wife's family, everybody lives in Fresno, California. That's where I grew up. Um, and we've wanted to go spend an extended period in Mexico so that they can learn Spanish. We can all be immersed in the culture because, yeah, that's our shared ethnicity, and that's my kid's ethnicity, right? So I'm Caribbean, my wife's Mexican, and so that's a really big um, dream that we have. But I'm curious, um, when you graduated, like, why did you pick Cabo? And how did you how did you get investors? I mean, did you already have an idea that this is what you were going to do when you would land there?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
when I was in Arizona, I went to Cabo for spring break. Cabo at the time was kind of like the Vegas of Mexico.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, this is fun. And I went back a couple times thereafter, and I looked at it and I really thought, you know what? This place needs a gym.
Hmm.
I would love to be here. And there's one little gym here, but there's at the time, this was, goodness gracious, January 1997.
Okay.
There was a huge expat community of Americans and Canadians that were not being served in the realm of fitness, and especially not with personal training. So
Yeah.
I knew that I could fill that void. I did consider California first. I was trying to decide, should I just move to San Diego and kind of like be close to Mexico? But Mexico was calling me. It was, for lack of a better word, it was a soul call. I just felt something inside of me kind of calling me home. And I spoke to my stepfather, and he was an entrepreneur. And I said, I'd really like to do this. What are your suggestions? And so he wrote out a basic business proposal for me, and he helped. He helped me to get the funding that I needed, and I was off to the races.
Hmm. So did you raise money mainly from Americans? So, and did you do that before going down to Mexico? Yeah.
A little bit of both. Yes, mostly, entirely actually from Americans, and half before and then half after I arrived. I needed to get the lay of the land. I needed to understand what I needed in terms of licensing and documentation and things like that. Especially at that time in history, you could not own a business as an American, but you could co-own with a Mexican national. So I wound up partnering with a Mexican national so that I could actually own the business. So there were a lot of steps to kind of trying to figure that out, which, getting back to your point about, as humans we love stories, um, that actually took me down a separate road of hiring a private investigator to find my biological father, because I was thinking, I know that his parents were born in Mexico. Perhaps I could get dual citizenship. And unfortunately, that did not work out. He made it clear he was not in my life for a reason, and that's okay. God
Yeah.
bless. Um,
Yes.
but just kind of figuring everything out personally, financially, and then in a business sense, it took a long time. And I was very blessed to have people around me that advised me really, really well. And also, I feel like I must have had some kind of divine protection, because goodness gracious, was I naive. I didn't know what I was walking into.
Yeah, that says a lot about you. I mean, so starting a business anywhere is a huge undertaking, and then doing it in a country where you don't yet speak the language, and there are different laws and different culture, and you like it is hard to the power of 10. And the fact, yeah, I mean, the fact that you would do that, it says, yeah, a lot about your ambition. And yeah, that's insane to me. Quite frankly, it is. So what did you learn there, and how long were you there running your gym?
I was there for 5 years,
Okay.
and I learned everything. I learned aprendí el español. I learned how to speak Spanish. I learned the cultures and the tradition. I learned how different populations like different times for their workouts, whether it's the morning or the
Mm-hmm.
evening. I learned about how to speak to people in a way that's culturally sensitive. So, for example, in the US, you know, when I'm talking to my girlfriends, we might talk about like our muffin top or lat fat or something like that.
Mhm.
And in Mexico, it's just a little bit different. There's sort of this universal language amongst women where we all know how to rip ourselves apart in any language. And I kind of realized like, oh gosh, okay. And this woman told me she had pistolas, and I'm like, what's a pistola? A pistol? And then I'm like, saddlebags. Got you. Okay. So I started to see how universally we're so similar, and sometimes it's just switching the words out. But then also learning about how in a primarily Catholic country, there's some questions about yoga. And wait, you're laying down and you're connecting to a spirit? What spirit? You know? And so I had to just kind of pause and be really respectful and say, oh, wait, no, I hear you. And this is not about connecting to spirits. This is connecting to your own spirit, your own sense of self. So I just really learned how to communicate in a way that's much more effective yet gentle.
Yeah, the soft skills are the most important skills. What came next? And how did you end up exiting Mexico? And where did you land next? So when I say exit, I mean, did you sell to your partner? Where's the gym now? Like, I'm assuming somebody owns it, right?
I sold everything.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got out of there. So my partner went a little sideways on me, and I can't be that surprised. You know, I knew her for all of like 2 months before I went into business with her. She wound up moving to mainland Mexico and went on to do other things. And I called her at one point and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm going to close and I'm going to sell all the equipment. And she really thought that she was going to make a gigantic profit off of that for some reason. And so I had to explain, no, we don't make money from closing a business.
Right. Everything's depreciated. There's no more
Yeah.
cash flow. Like this is done.
This is done. I need to tell you the reason I made the decision because it's much more important. I was about to turn 30, and so I was living in Cabo San Lucas, and I went from Cabo to Chicago because I wanted to go visit family for the big birthday. And when I was in Chicago, about to go back to Mexico, I was on a plane, and the pilot came over the loudspeaker and said, "We need to land." It was September 11th,
Ah,
2001.
yeah.
So the plane was grounded. We were grounded in Tulsa, Oklahoma. When I stepped off of the plane, I walked towards the airport bar and there were the televisions, and on the monitor I saw Tower 2 come down. So I was in Tulsa for about 2 or 3 days, just kind of waiting for something to open. But I was watching the news and I was taking in all of this tragedy. And finally, I shut the news off and I used my skills. I did what I know how to do. I went within and I went into a deep place of stillness and meditation and just kind of asked, like, what do I do? How can I help? And it came through so clearly to me to share my skills, to share my gifts, to share what I know how to do, to help people to feel strong again from the inside out. So, quite literally, as soon as I got to Mexico, that's when I put everything into motion to sell it all and move back to the US. I had this dream of always wanting to do a DVD. And
Hmm.
um, so I'm like, all right, where should I go? And literally, I was like looking at a map, you know, wanted to throw an arrow at it, like, where should I go? Um,
Hmm.
but LA was the obvious choice
It's the
because
epicenter.
yes, yes, it's the epicenter for fitness, it's the epicenter for film,
Yep.
and to do a DVD, yes, of course. I moved to Los Angeles. I knew one person. I called her and I said, I don't know anyone, and it's the holidays. And she said, come with us. We're all going to go out to Vegas. I went to
Hmm.
Las Vegas for New Year's Eve
Hmm.
and met my husband that night.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was gonna ask, when did you meet your husband? Did you meet him in Mexico? You met him. Okay, you met him at New
Yeah.
Year's Eve when you came back to the U.S.
Yes.
Nice.
He was also living in Los Angeles, and I started to look for a job. And I was very lucky because I had already been an owner and operator. I was able to walk into personal training and group fitness pretty easily. And around a few months later, Equinox, which was a New York is a New York based company, came to Los Angeles, and they wanted to open a club in Santa Monica. So I applied and I became the group fitness director. And I helped to open that club with a staff of about 60 instructors. So that's how I
Yeah.
got back to the US.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Equinox, very high end brand name. How long were you at Equinox, and what came next? Yeah, yeah. I want to get to how Desi Bartlett Industries was born. That's how I view you. You have so many businesses I want to get into. So, yeah. How long were you at Equinox, and did the DVD ever get made? What were you doing on the side while you were there?
I was at Equinox for about a year, and I was hustling trying to get a DVD made with a company called Gaiam. I don't know if you're familiar with them. The logo is on the front end of a lot of yoga mats. They sell at big box also now, like Target. So I'm trying to reach out to Gaiam, and can we get something done? But in so doing, in reaching out to Gaiam and saying I'd really like to do a series with you, they said, well, we'd really like to hire you away and have you in house as an executive and make you the product director and pay you quite well. And I said, okay. So,
Sure. Yeah.
around that time, Gaiam acquired another company called Good Times Media.
Okay.
And Good Times had Richard Simmons, Billy Blanks, later on had The Biggest Loser, The Firm, all kinds of like big 90s and early 2000s names. And so I started to create a lot of products for yoga and fitness celebrities, and I was doing great and I loved it. And then all of a sudden I woke up one day and I'm like, wait, I never did the DVD, and this was not my dream. Every time you hear someone else saying that they invented something that you invented, it's like, oh, oh.
Hmm.
There's a feeling of I could do this as myself. I you know what I mean?
Absolutely. So when you say you were making products for celebrities, these were like physical fitness products, these were media products. What products?
These are physical fitness products for fitness celebrities, and
Mm,
like yoga props and things that someone else's name would be put on. It doesn't mean that they couldn't have thought of it. It doesn't mean that they didn't collaborate or help, but I had a lot of input. Let's put it that way. So after a while, I was like, you know what? It's time. It's time for me to get back to what the dream was and to the vow that I made on September 11th, which was to help. So um, I wound up leaving Gaiam and kind of wasn't sure exactly where I was going to go or what I was going to do. But I reached out to Prevention magazine, and as fate would have it, they were starting a DVD line in yoga.
did you know
So
that ahead of time? Like, did you get a word like, "Hey, you should talk to these people. They're trying to do this project."
I knew the director, but I didn't know that he was going to do anything in the world of yoga at all.
Okay.
And I really just kind of reached out and said, this is something I've always wanted to do. If you happen to know anyone that would be interested in it. And he said, yes, we are. So, moral of the story here for anyone who's listening, call everybody you know. If you have a dream in your heart, just call everyone, because you never know who's going to just step up and say, yes, I can help. I went on and did a DVD with them, and long story short, I went on to do about 10 DVDs in
Hmm.
English and Espanol. Um,
Yeah.
and so I had a huge love for that medium, which then carried out later onto other platforms like Beachbody and iFit and my own.
Did you own that IP for the DVDs that you were making?
No,
Yeah.
so everything was under other people's companies, and yeah, the content and everything, no. And so I kind of realized I wanted to also look at what are my personal goals in terms of like a family.
Yeah.
My husband and I told him, of course, before we had children, I was like, listen, I really just want to make a DVD. I'll have babies so happily with so much joy in my heart, but let me realize this one dream first. I gotta do this. And after the fourth DVD, he was like, hey, are we gonna have children?
You said you want to make a DVD. This is number
Uh,
4.
yeah. So
6 more, just 6,
yes,
6 more. That's it. I promise.
But here's the thing, Michael. I don't always like to admit it because of what I do now, but I think it's important to bring it into the conversation. There was part of me that was worried, like, what is my body going to look like after I have a baby? I work in health and fitness, and am I going to be able to get back into what I do? And what is this going to look like? What was so beautiful was that I started to go to prenatal classes during my first pregnancy, and I didn't like any of them. I felt like Goldilocks, like this one is too hard, this one is too easy, this one they don't say the word baby. And so I immersed myself into it. And I'm like, goodness gracious, I have the skills and the experience to create something here. And so then I went on for that certification, and I became so driven and myopic in this theme that I went on to create DVDs and eventually write a book, because I realized, oh my goodness, these women in the world are so underserved. The
Yeah.
first the first fitness regulations, if you will, or what we're teaching pregnant women, I think that if I can remember, ACOG, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, finally came out with some exercise guidelines, and I think it was 1985 was the first time ever. 2004 is the first time that we see a prenatal certification in yoga. So, like, this is not that old.
Yeah, I mean, it's not old now, and it was even newer when you were starting to push this on the forefront. How did you know to write a book, or where'd the book come from? Did someone tell you should do this? Did you just like have a bunch of notes, and you're like, hey, I've got a lot of notes. I should like put these together.
I started to teach a lot of certification courses, and I
Yeah.
realized that I had enough for a book, but I kind of wasn't thinking about it too much until my friend Travis wrote a beautiful book called Yin Yoga with Human Kinetics by Travis Elliott. And he asked me to contribute the prenatal section of Yin Yoga. And I saw the publisher, and the publisher was Human Kinetics out of Southern Illinois. They're the publisher for like every book I ever read in college. So I said, "Hey Travis, would it be okay with you? Could you introduce me to Human Kinetics? I'm interested in writing a book." And I called, and it was right time. I had the information, and they had the desire for it. They had a market for it, and we made it happen.
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds like your commitment to women's health has always been there to some degree. Can you speak about how it influences every aspect of what you did then and what you're doing now?
Yeah. So my mother, and I don't want to speak poorly of her because she's since passed, but she had a tremendously challenging road with substance abuse. And so when I was growing up, like late 70s, early 80s, you would see a lot of people that had issues with prescription drug abuse specifically. And she was one. And what I saw was what this did to her body and how it ravaged her, and how it took away her spirit and her joy. And so when I get like so deep into wanting to help women and especially moms, I always like to go back to, like where when they became a mom. So whether it's fertility or pregnancy or new motherhood, I want to give women all of the skills that they need to be present with their babies. And I feel like it's kind of my way of paying it forward, so that everyone who poured into me when she couldn't, I can hopefully now go and share that with the world.
This hits pretty close to home. Before coming on, me and my wife were just having a conversation about how many things we're juggling right now. And we have an 8-month-old. It's so much work, and there's a disproportionate amount of work that just falls on my wife. It's just the nature of the roles that we're in right now at this age. And if you were to sit down and speak with my wife and tell her, here's what I recommend you do to fill your tank and for self-care, where would you begin to kind of assess what the woman in front of you, where she might be depleted and how she should go about filling up her tank? Or like, it's hard for me to even ask, but I
Mhm.
feel like this is the realm that you live in, and I would love to hear how you would approach that type of situation.
I would start by listening. I wouldn't start with, you should do this. I feel like as women, we're told we got a whole list of things that we're supposed to do or we should do.
Yeah.
What I would start with is, how are you? Like, truly, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are you feeling as a mother? How are you feeling as a human being? How is your body? How's your sleep? Are you getting enough to eat? And just really simple questions and kind of build from there. When I look at someone's body specifically, I don't always start with weight loss. And I feel like there's so many trainers out there that start with like, let's get those last 5 pounds off, or let's bounce back to pre-baby weight. That's not me. I start with, how do you feel? How do you want to feel? How do we bridge the gap? And that's really where I begin. So for example, Michael, if she said, I'm fatigued. And if I said, how do you want to feel? I want to feel empowered. Then we would build a plan that would help to move her from here to here. And that would include things like meditation and slowing down and taking maybe just a minute or two each morning in meditation to set a clear intention for the day. So when the day tries to pull you away, as it will, whether it's our babies, our responsibilities, social media, whatever it is, the world pulls. We need a clear North Star every single day so that we can go, oh, wait. And that helps to drive every decision, which can also help with clear boundaries. So if somebody calls your wife and says, hey, I need a little help with this one thing, and we know that that one thing is going to turn into 10 things.
It always does.
Yes. But her vision will be clear. The vision is to, be empowered and to thrive. And can I do that by giving my power away all day? Mm-mm.
No.
So you can lovingly say no.
How do you split your time today? And behind that is between the media that do you have personal, individual, like one-on-one clients? How do you split your time today?
So I wake up at the crack of dawn. I wake up really early and
Yeah.
I go into meditation, just a few minutes. I walk out on the beach. We're very lucky to live in Hawaii. And I get really clear about what's important. Then I go back and I get the kids ready and do all the things, drive them to school, which is quite far away. I usually wind up listening to podcasts and really listening and educating myself during those drives. And then I go into my day. So my work day. So whether it's working with individual clients or creating online media that then goes to the platform. So for example, next week I'm shooting a lot of content for a company in Europe. I'll have a couple days that I'm working on that. And then I also have my PhD studies. So I might be working with individual clients or for my platform or for someone else's platform the bulk of the day. And then I'll go get my kids, take care of them, sports, dinner, the whole thing. And then I go back to work at night. And that's when I get into my PhD. So PhD is usually the evening or the weekends. My kids are a little older now, so I have a lot more time than when they were little. I've got a soon to be 11-year-old and a 16-year-old. The 16-year-old's about to drive, and both of them are in two separate sports. I know I step on the imaginary brake all day. They're very involved in sports, and it's very important to my husband and I that they take care of their bodies and
Mhm.
understand the gift of physical fitness. So while my kids are at sports, I am not the scrolling, texting mom. I mean, sometimes just because it's fun, but I'm the one who is sitting there, working on my thesis or looking at a client's personal program and where can we tweak it so that she feels even better.
When did the celebrity clients start? And without divulging names, you don't have to do that. Are you still training celebrities today?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, you can share if you'd like to, but you don't have to share.
No, it's fun.
Yeah.
So I started working with celebrities. Goodness gracious, I'm trying to remember what year. 2004 ish. maybe 2004. And I met an amazing publicist, and she said, I'd like for you to work with some of my clients. And that was how all of that started. And Hollywood is a very close knit community, and your name starts to get passed around if you're good.
Yep.
So I was very lucky in that way. And then also, my doula, who is one of my best friends, also works with a lot of celebrity clientele. And so we would share people all the time. It's something that I really enjoy because I feel like everyone, however large or smaller it might be, we all have a sphere of influence. We all have our gifts that we can share. And whether it's with like the whole world, if you're Kate Hudson and you've got this enormous audience, or if it's the mom down the street, we all have people that are looking at us
Yep.
going, oh, she looks great. How'd she do that? She looks like she feels good. Wow, if she can hold that baby and she can pick up the car seat and her back is just fine. How'd she do that? So but I look at working with celebrity from that vantage point. How can we help inspire even more people?
Yeah, I like that. Everybody does have their own sphere of influence. And one thing that I think helped me come out of my skin. So there's this paradox, right? Where fewer people are looking at you than you think. And at the same time, more people are looking at you than you
Yeah.
think, right? Like both are true at the same time, which seems kind of weird,
Mhm.
right? How are the media assets versus the personal training clients and the books? How do those all fit into your picture for what you'll be doing 10 years from now?
So what I do is I have a piece of cardboard in my office,
Yeah.
and what I've done is I've written down all of the different ways that I can share this message. And so I can share it on video, I can share it through blogs, I can share it with individuals, I can share it with equipment, and we can talk about equipment as well if you'd like. I've written down all of these different ways that I can help, that I can show up, that I can be of service. And then next to that, I have specific goals written in each bucket.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of how I do it. And that came from 1990s Awaken the Giant Within, Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins. Yeah.
Yeah, he was really the one who helped me finish my graduate degree, move to Mexico, and open a gym. I would listen to him every morning, and he would always say, write it down, write it down, write it down. You want something, you have a vision, write it down, look at it every single day. So that's what I do.
Wow. What an impact. My parents actually were just at a Tony Robbins event in, I think, Germany a couple weeks ago. And my dad texted me and he was like, whatever you want to do, write it down. He was like, it's so important. And
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about like, there are so many successful people. Tim Ferriss talks about how Tony Robbins impacted his life. You're talking about it. Like, um, yeah, that's a gentleman who's really inspired so many people to change the world and make an impact. And you're another product of that. What are all the revenue streams that you currently have in your operation?
So I have, without disclosing confidentiality
Amazing.
within different contracts,
Yep.
I have media that I've created for other companies. I also have, as you know, my private clients, and then
Hmm.
I have my own platform now, Desi Bodymind, which is a video platform primarily, but also blogs and all of the things. So that's primarily where I live. I did take a step back in terms of like revenue being the driving force while I'm in school. I have six
Hmm.
months to get this dissertation out.
Let's
And
go.
then, yes, yeah. And then the plan is to rebrand and be Dr. Desi. So I have very clear and specific goals, but to be just really upfront and honest, right now I'm a student and I still
You
do
got to
it
do it.
all
That's a
the things that
phase.
I love, but I am a student.
It's important to lay that foundation. I know when I left personal training and came into finance, I studied for a long time to complete the CFA charter, which in the finance world is probably the most difficult certification you can attain outside of getting like a PhD in finance or something. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's like, oh, I want to be taking steps forward, but you got to do that study part first, right? And so you're in that phase right now. Tell me about relocating to Hawaii. When did that happen, and how did that happen?
So it happened July of 2020.
Oh, very recently.
Yeah, during
Okay.
the pandemic.
Yeah.
So what happened was my husband I need to just mention him for a moment. He's a brilliant businessman, and he's
Mhm.
really, when people ask me like, "Oh, how did you put all this together, and how do you understand the world of business and like KPIs and all the things?" And I'm like, "Oh, my husband taught me." So I just want to recognize that so much of what I've learned from him during the first, I don't know, 10 years of our older son's life. We would always come to Hawaii on vacation. And we're like, this is really, really beautiful, but how could we make it work? And we kind of would daydream. And then right before the pandemic started, we decided, okay, wait, he's going to go into sixth grade. If we're going to make the move, now's the time so that he has that seamless transition. And we started to look at property. We came over, we signed school contracts, we did all the things. That was February. We got back to
Oh
LA.
wow. Oh jeez.
We got
Right
back to
before.
LA like March 3rd, I think. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, the world shut down, what, 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So when people ask us, did you move because of the pandemic? No, we moved in spite of the pandemic,
Yeah.
and we just charged forward. We were like, this is where we're meant to be right now. So we were able to move a few months later. We sold the house in Los Angeles. We came here, and it's been a blessing. Schools in LA were closed for a really, really long time. And in Hawaii, I think they were closed for a month. So
Really?
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man, they were closed for a long time here in Seattle.
yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
year plus, maybe a year and a half. Do you do any in-person training, or is your entire operation, it's all media and online driven?
It's primarily online. So I do still love to work with people in person. And when I go to Los Angeles, I often call my clients and friends and say, hey, I'm coming back. Would you like to book a session? And I generally would say I go back once a quarter. It still feels like there's a
Nice.
rhythm to it.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But most of it is online, and I've found that that was sort of the silver lining of the pandemic, that we realized like, oh, we can Zoom and we can do all these things. And I have sort of this sweet spot with pregnant celebrities. And so
Nice. Hey, that's a great niche.
yeah, it is. It is. And the fact that I can continue to do that and to offer that and to have this digital experience is, I keep coming back to the word blessing because that's what it feels like. It feels like all of the things that I do now didn't necessarily exist when I was growing up. So I mean, we had like I think I told you a while back, I had like a Jane Fonda VHS tape, but I didn't have someone like zooming into my living room, personalizing my experience. So I think it's so cool just to see how tech has pushed us along in this industry, and to just kind of pause and recognize like, oh gosh, I guess that makes us all pioneers.
It 100% does. Yeah, and for all of its negatives, I agree. The one of the silver linings is that it trained us to be able to build trust remotely with video,
Yes.
right? And that is a benefit, because I feel like, especially nowadays, for Gen X and millennials, and definitely Gen Z and then Alpha, there is this expectation of being able to be mobile, right, and to be able to do your work from anywhere. And it is true that there is no true one-to-one substitute for incarnate, in-person, high band I like to say high bandwidth interaction.
Mhm.
Right, there is no replacement for it. However, you can still get a lot of value by doing what we're doing right now, and I think that is a blessing that has come out of the COVID. Tell me about your retreats.
Oh, so one of my best friends in this world is a naturopathic doctor, and she does blood panel analysis. And so we were talking one day, and I'm like, how cool would it be to have us do this together, to lead a retreat together, so that she could tell women specifically what's happening inside of their bodies and how to help heal whatever they need to. We tend to go more towards like the perimenopausal midlife crowd, that's usually who has the time and the finances to be able to go and do this kind of thing. So imagine if you're going through perimenopause, there's like 77 different symptoms that can manifest, and we're so often told like, oh, just drink some water and take some magnesium and call it a day. And so to offer women again an experience where they can see what's happening on a cellular level, learn what supplements they need, and then learn the physical practices that they need to help mitigate these symptoms. To me, that's true empowerment. So
Beautiful.
that's why we do this, and we do this annually in Mexico. Last year we did it in Cabo because I love Cabo, obviously, and this year we're going to move over to mainland Mexico. I'm kind of stepping outside of my comfort zone to mainland Mexico, but I know it's going to be absolutely beautiful.
How do you market the retreat? Is it all word of mouth to existing clients? How do people find out about it?
So I work with a company called Wellness Marketing. There's a wonderful woman. Her name is Tammy Peterson. She's the owner of that company. What I love about Tammy is she takes care of all of the day-to-day details. So like booking the hotel, making sure that we have a venue from 4 to 5 p.m., making sure that there's beverages and towels and like an elevated experience for everyone so that I can come in and actually do what I do, which is, teach yoga and meditation and fitness. And while I can and have worked as an executive and I understand how to put those things together, it is so much more fun to be talent. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I get to just come in and do what I do. Cool. But
That's
of
cool.
course, I market and I speak with existing clients. I do a lot of marketing on social. And I feel like that's really where I see people kind of jump on it. I also do a lot of podcasts and I invite women to join if they have the means. It's my pleasure, my honor, my joy to bring women into a space where we can connect and lift one another.
Hmm.
I feel like in our modern society, we don't have a lot of time to join in a circle and really hear one another's experiences and connect from a place of like, when I say, how are you? It's not just, oh, fine.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like,
No, seriously.
yeah, exactly. So I feel like really deep healing happens in those sacred circles.
Once the PhD is done, because that's number one, right? And it takes all of your energy and time. Where do you see the biggest growth drivers for two aspects?
Mhm.
Revenue and then also message amplification. What do you see being the two biggest growth drivers for each of those individually?
Product is probably my answer for both, honestly. So I've been in product forever, because of Gaiam and being the product director there. I really learned about hard goods, yoga mats, blocks, weights, the whole thing. After I left that company, I did some consulting for them still, and I was so geeked out to help create stuff for The Biggest Loser. I still
Mm,
love that.
yeah.
And then later, we kind of missed one little chapter in my career life. I worked for Manduka, which is a yoga company, as the community director. So I was able to create a group of influencers. I kind of don't like that word anymore, but we had
Yeah.
like 4 global ambassadors. I think it was 500 local ambassadors. And so when we had a new product, we could release it into the community. And it was just so much fun. But while I was there, I also said, hey, I created this product. It's a round yoga mat. And I think that this is the time to like bring it to market. And I'd like to do it with you. And I was already in house. So we created a round yoga mat. It sold like gangbusters during the pandemic because people had the space for it and it was cool. It was visually beautiful. It has since been, I think the correct term is sunsetted.
Okay.
Tired.
Yeah, retired. Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
retired about 3 months ago. I believe we all have gifts. And I have the gift of having a vision for creating products that have not been in existence before that can help you feel better. I have an idea for a few different products right now and creating a product line and a kit, but that will be by Dr. Desi. So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I truly believe that in terms of revenue stream, that's going to be it, and then also amplification of my voice because that's what's going to be what can take me into big box as myself and not behind someone else's name.
100%. Got it. Okay. So, is that the part that you enjoy the most? The creating a product out of nothing?
It's a very, very, very close second. I hate when I
Yeah,
have to
that's
rank things to working with women and seeing them feel good. When I
Yeah.
see a woman connect to her baby inside, oh my gosh, like that gives me chills. It makes me so happy.
We could go into some of the business aspects. Do you have any really big expenses? Like, what are the big expenses to run your operation?
So it was building the platform and talking to my web designer and what is that going to look like and how do we do it and is it cheaper to just create an app and like all of that and all the design, and now we have to go back and I I soft launched, and then I have to ask everyone with like A/B testing, do you like this presentation more? Do you like this presentation more? And I've kind of had to mature as a result of it because I've been a little bit financially immature because I've been working with other people's money for a really long time in different
Mm,
companies. And while I was always directed, okay, we need to save money here, we need to look at this, what I realize now is like, oh, it's my money. Things have changed a
yeah.
little bit. Um,
Yeah.
but it's really caused me to realize like, do I know biomechanics and exercise phys? Yes. Do I know marketing and client acquisition? Yes. Do I know products and digital products and all that? Yes. Do I know just basic accounting like I should? Uh-oh, I found a gap, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like being back in school, if I could go back and kind of help advise people who are coming into the fitness industry, especially if you're in kinesiology, there should be an accounting course. There just should.
Oh, yeah.
We as instructors are, DJs and trainers and psychologists and like all the things. We do all of these things. We embody all of these roles. We don't get compensated for all those roles. You get compensated as an instructor. So understanding your value and what goes into each of these things, I think is so important. But going back to your question, the biggest expense is at the moment the website and also populating it. I have videos on there, but I got to keep chugging them out. And so I have to make sure that the video is pretty and that it's edited well and that it has music and graphics. And now I'm darn near a videographer on top of it. So there's
You're not doing all the editing yourself, are you?
I'm not doing all the editing myself. I tried. I
Yeah.
really did try. And I'm like, I know someone else could do this better. And I need to budget for that.
Wow. Okay. So a line of products under Dr. Desi. I love it. And it sounds like that adventure is just about to get started. Like you're laying the groundwork, but like it's about to get very real in 6 months.
Yes.
6 months. 6 months. All right. Well, I'll be rooting for you. Is there anything specific that you'd like to promote? Where should people check you out? I know I read your website at the beginning, but it'd be great for you just to go over again. Like, what should people check out, both business wise for you, whether it's media, whether it's products, whether it's books, Amazon, wherever. And are there any charities or any philanthropic organizations that you'd love to shout out?
Well, let's start there. Let's start with philanthropy. There
Mm.
is a foundation in Los Angeles. It's called PS I Love You Foundation, and they bring yoga into at risk schools. And I used to teach for them in Watts, and they're near and dear to my heart. And they have something called a day at the beach. And so they bring
Mm.
children from inner city Los Angeles that might live just 10 miles away from the beach, 5 miles away from the beach, and have never even seen it, and they introduce these beautiful children to Mother Nature. So that's a big one. P.S. I Love You is the name of the foundation.
Yes, I love you.
For books, I've written the two books that you've
The two.
mentioned, Your Strong, Sexy Pregnancy and Total Body Beautiful. Those are both available on my website or Amazon. I hope you check them out. I have media available on Beachbody and iFit for pre and postnatal. And my new platform, Desi Bodymind, is really more of a boutique experience. And what I wanted to do is, again, just give you one clear word of how do you want to feel? Strong, flexible, clear. Where do you want to go today? And then you choose the workout based on that one word. It's a combination of meditation, yoga, and fitness. So I choose a new theme each week and I ride with it, and you'll find that on Instagram as well.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Is that a similar approach that you take with your one-on-one clients?
Yes.
That mantra, that word, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you define yoga versus fitness?
Yoga is the union of breath and body, of body and spirit. It's the ha. It's what animates us. It's life. It's union. Fitness is strength. It's mobility. It's power. It's physical health. So I like to blend the two. I want the feeling of the I'm alive and I am embodied and I am here to be of service and this body and this breath work together. And I'm strong as heck and I can lift that and
Let's
I
go.
can help you to do it too.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Desi, it has been a pleasure. I will be rooting for you. And if there's ever anything I can do to help promote your message, just let me know.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate the opportunity to share my message, but also I appreciate your message. And I feel like as fitness entrepreneurs and professionals, we are not well educated in finance. And so when I see someone who's coming in and helping, kudos
Mm.
to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I breathe it so much. I'm often not really aware how much value it is. So it's helpful to hear from you. Like, yeah, these are blind spots, and like you wish someone had told you this sooner. And it's like, hell yeah. Well, let's get this going. Because yeah, these are all just parts of the pyramid, and capital and money and finance and profit and loss and depreciation and all the nonsense. I love that stuff. And if I can help use my skills to promote messages like yours, then that's a win. So thank you. All right. Take care.